Dr. Jazz.
Hey guys,
Dr.
Samo here.
Jazz.
Thanks for checking out the channel and its contents. And if you feel like it, please do subscribe. Thanks so much. Enjoy the video. Bye. No, but man, I'll just jump in. I'm so happy we're here because I have you on so many records, and I remember when Uncle Mo's Space Ranch came out. I was like, dude, that's insane. I was a huge Chambers and Gary Willis fan, and then I got to know you guys, and I went all the way back. But I wanted to start this talk by when is a new record coming out? I heard some of latest tracks which you sing in, and you're a monster singer, by the way. Like, are you preparing a new record also, or like what's happening there on the band leading department?
Oh, look, my friends Jerry Pantazis and Craig Newman and I were just doing that for a bit of fun. We did a seminar at a school in Melbourne, and the usual suspects of trio tunes like Stratus and the Chicken came up, and I said, why don't we do some vocal tunes? Because I'd been singing a bit with some friends around here and just having fun. And I said, it just opens the floor up to more general discussion because all the students there, and as it turned out, so we did a few of those tunes, and as it turned out, a lot of singing students came up afterwards and had a chat, and
Yeah.
I think it was good because the minute you add vocals to a performance, it just becomes something for everybody rather than just if you limit it to playing, it's if you don't play guitar or bass or drums, it's really hard for people to find anything in there they can latch onto. You know what I mean?
True, absolutely. Yeah. Like, I hear so much like Cream or Hendrix there when I hear you sing and play guitar. I mean, were these guys that you listen to? I mean, because it's like a trio format, obviously. So,
Well, yeah, that's what I grew up listening to. Like, I was influenced by my older brother's album collection. He was 10 years older than me, and he loved the guitar. He had all the Creedence Clearwater Revival albums and Hendrix and Deep Purple and Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Santana, the Woodstock album, you name it. Like
oh, sure.
the first Hendrix album I ever heard in my life was Live at the Isle of Wight, which is a very challenging album to listen to straight up. But
It is.
it was the interesting thing about that was I later on the album version of All Along the Watchtower was getting a lot of airplay because we're talking back in the early 70s here. And I was born in 63, so by about 74, I developed a real interest in guitar. And I was comparing the version on the Isle of Wight album to the album version, and I was going, they're just really different. And it took me a minute to figure out, like, one is in a studio and the other one is on stage.
Yeah.
And so I found that interesting. Like, I was listening to a lot of the old Deep Purple stuff, and like one of the well, it wasn't old then, was pretty much brand new, but one of the first albums I ever heard was made in Japan.
Of course.
And I heard a lot of the versions of those songs before I even got to the studio versions. And then when I heard the studio versions, I went, Richie plays a whole different solo. And I put two and two together and just went, well, okay, so when you play live, you should play something else. You don't have to play the same solo. So without even realizing it, I was telling myself to improvise.
Beautiful. Yeah. That's so important, right? I love that.
Well, it's what I fell in love with.
Yeah.
It's why I
Okay.
play music, really. If I couldn't improvise, I wouldn't bother.
Yeah.
It's what I like to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that too. I mean, I remember I did like a pop gig when I was 19. A friend of mine called me a bass player, and they needed a guitarist. I was like, okay, I'll learn 50 tunes. And they're like, in one track comes like a solo section. And I just started improvising. And the band leader is like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's solo, 8 bars. No, you have to play the exact same solo that's on the record. I was like, oh man, come on.
Oh,
I'm not doing that. It's like,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. You got
sure,
the wrong guy.
yeah, learn it for home. Yeah, of course. I learned all the solos. I guess you did as well, of course. Like, but just to play it on a gig, I was like, no, no, no. Come on. That's wrong. That's blasphemy.
It would like I've done cover band gigs
Of
quite a
course, yeah.
bit, and it sort of depends on the song. Like if I know the song and I love the song, then I'm happy to play the solo, or at least do a very close approximation of it.
Yeah,
But no, just especially with my own music, it's all about really
absolutely.
having the freedom to just play whatever comes into your head.
Yeah. You mentioned Clapton and Richie, and I mean, you grew up then in the 70s, like as a teenager when, McLaughlin came and Al Di Meola came, like all these fusion guys. Did those guys come to Australia in the 70s, or like how did you enter that realm of fusion? Like,
Well, the fusion thing kind of crept in, and I missed a lot of people. I missed John McLaughlin. I missed Return to Forever. I missed
oh, really? Wow.
Mahavishnu, and I guess it was just because my brother didn't have those albums. Like if he didn't have the stuff,
Interesting.
by the time I was able to buy LPs, albums, like I'm still just a school student, and we were never very wealthy. So I mean, I could maybe buy one a month, and I was mainly just buying Deep Purple records, to be honest. I mean, I was
Wow,
so
interesting.
obsessed with Richie Blackmore, I was just buying that. But a lot of my family members, like my brother-in-laws, who were obviously married to my sisters. My brother-in-law Wayne is a wonderful jazz drummer and could have easily become a professional musician in his own right, but he just decided to raise a family and was happy to do that. But his record collection was a treasure trove of stuff because he was into Blood, Sweat and Tears, Chicago, George Benson, like a lot of really obscure stuff I never would have got my hands on, and Steely Dan, things like
Oh,
that.
man, yeah.
So yeah, I was getting information from a lot of places because I guess you have to understand I'm living back in the little town that I grew up in, and after living all over in America and all the rest of it, but ended up back here, and I searched long and hard for a good jazz guitar teacher because I just somehow knew that jazz was the
Yeah,
pathway to understanding harmony, and I just couldn't find them. They didn't exist, or I couldn't find them, and I looked. And so I did study classical when I was about 17, which was wonderful. I mean, I fell in love with the music, but I also realized I didn't really have the physical reach on the instrument to play a lot of that stuff. I would try and get the stretches and pull the guitar out of tune, and I thought, wow, I'm at a severe disadvantage here. I see someone like Antoine Boyer
yeah.
playing those pieces, and I look at his left hand or Josh Meter, and they've got these huge left hand stretches, and I go, oh man, what I wouldn't give for that left hand, to have the Holsworth hands, as they say. But unfortunately, with classical music, I did actually learn to read music quite well, which of course I'm lousy at it now because I haven't done it in years. But when I was doing it, I got to learn to read music quite well, and I just loved the harmony and the chords, but I didn't know what they were. They
Yeah,
didn't tell you the voicings, the names, the reason anything worked. It just sounded beautiful, but I didn't know why. And so I was just led by my ear
here,
and
yeah.
relative pitch, really, just trying to improvise over songs. And when chords changed, I changed, and it didn't really matter if it was diatonic to C major. I didn't even understand that. I just went, okay, if it's a C major chord, I'm playing something in C major, and oh, now it's gone to A minor, so I'll play something in A minor. So I didn't understand that mentality, that modal mentality of
Yeah,
just playing C major and moving around. I didn't do that. So everything
interesting.
had to be built from the root up.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, of course. That's the beginning, right? I mean, but
Yeah,
did
well,
you go?
that's how I learned was by ear. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
had
so
to,
important. It's like the old guys, right? That's how they did it,
I
basically.
guess I didn't know, but I stumbled into it.
Yeah. Did you go through the jazz school as well? I mean, you mentioned Benson. I mean, did you go like to the classical jazz guys like Jim Hall or Wes Montgomery?
No, I didn't. I
No,
didn't
right?
even know
Yeah.
they existed.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the thing back in the 70s. I mean, we didn't walk around with a phone and
Of course. Yeah.
the combined knowledge of human history in our pockets. And if you weren't lucky enough to actually see something or hear something or be exposed to it through a friend or whatever, then it just went by the wayside, I'm afraid. It was so rare to see anything on TV here
Yeah.
in the country because we only had, like, on a good day we had three TV channels, and on a bad day we had two, and one would come and go. And to see any music on there I was lucky. I saw what I did. I saw some real gems of performances on there that changed my life, but it was just pure luck. You'd stumble across it, and Yeah, I would have given anything to study with a really good jazz teacher. It would have carved years off my progress and really just enlightened me to the beautiful sounds I was hearing, but just didn't know what they were.
Yeah, yeah, sure. You mentioned Holdsworth. I wanted to ask you about Alan later. I mean, I know we're going through the same paths like the Mark Varney project and the Derek Sherinian stuff. And uh, when was the first time you heard Alan? And I mean, I remember hearing the 16 Man of Tain the first time, like, and I transcribed immediately that solo 0274, and I was like, dude, that's insane. Like,
Oh, wow.
what was your moment of Alan, and like, what did he mean for your playing? And I mean,
I
actually,
guess
I guess you got to know him later, and
I only met him once,
oh,
and
really? Oh,
like
wow.
a lot of rock players, I guess my gateway to Alan was through Eddie Van Halen, and he mentioned him in his guitar player cover interview,
Yeah,
and he was specific. He said, "Look," he said, you've got to get the UK album and listen to In the Dead of Night, and you've got to get the Bruford One of a Kind album
yeah.
and listen to Hell's Bells." And I had a really good friend here in town at the local record store, and he took it as a personal challenge to find these sort of albums for me. Like I'd go in with whatever I'd read in Guitar Player, and I'd say, "Ian, you got to find me this," and I'm on it. And he'd get out the big catalog and he'd go looking for it, and then
Wow.
a month later it would turn up. And the UK album turned up, and at that moment, it was sort of a pivotal part of my development because I suppose I'd been playing for about 5 years then, and I'd developed a degree of technique. But I always worried that because I only took 4 lessons from a very good guitar player
Wow.
here in town when I was about 12, and then I drifted away from it for some reason, and then I just decided to teach myself when my cousins and I formed a band. And I always did worry, like, am I doing this right? Am I doing the right things? Am I breaking any rules here? And it was always in the back of my mind. And people kept coming up to me and saying, "Wow, you're a really great guitar player." And I thought, yeah, but you wouldn't know. Like, you don't play. Most of them didn't even play the guitar. They were just impressed I could play anything on it, I think. And I said, yeah, that's not a good enough appraisal for me. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing here. And then I read a Frank Zappa interview where he said, well, I'm not really a fast guitar player or something like that because I don't pick every note. And he made a reference to the fact that he didn't pick every note. He said he'd pick one note and then his left hand would do the rest. And
Yeah.
and I went, oh my God, that's what I do. And I went, that's how I play the guitar. And I thought, I knew I'd blow it. I knew I'd get it wrong. And I've completely blown it and I'm a fraud. And I thought once people find out, I'll have to give up the guitar and they'll say I'm a complete fake and failure. And then because I realized like even people like Eddie Van Halen, Gary Moore, all the people I was hearing, like they were picking all the notes and I'd never noticed it before. And I tried it and I went, oh my God, this is terrible. I'm years behind. I haven't got a hope of doing this. And then the minute I put that UK album on and I heard the solo from In the Dead of Night, I recognized the legato sound, that sound. And I went, okay, so Alan's doing it. And so that says it says it's okay to just do whatever you want to do. Like if he's doing it, then obviously he's not getting arrested for it. So, and then of course when I heard what he was doing with it, I went, I love it. Like I want to go down that path with it. So
Yeah.
so I tried to copy him as best I could, which was luckily for me in a way. Alan was so advanced and always would be that I didn't really have too much of a trouble of stealing any real lines or licks or anything. I just tried to mimic the movement of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the closest I could get to it was chromaticism. And so out of that sort of came a more personalized approach, I guess. So
Absolutely.
so I mean, I believe me, I would have loved to have been able to copy Alan and be that good, but nah, not even close.
Oh,
So
but you got your own style, therefore. I mean,
I hope so. I hope
yeah,
so. It's,
definitely. I mean, you have the legato technique. I was the same. I just didn't understand what was harmonically happening. So
no,
I just knew a legato is a cool sound, and I kind of adapted that, but I didn't know what to play over what. It was just like amazing lines. I was like, what is he playing? What are these?
beautiful stuff, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
just,
funny thing. Like I mean, with Alan's music, as an example, but I found this with a lot of jazz and progressive rock and fusion. Like I am not qualified in any way, shape, or form to analyze that harmonically. Rick, on the other hand, Rick Fiorabracci could easily sit down and not only analyze it, but he's played it. He's played in bands like that. He is at that level, I uh, but I just still love the music, and I always thought it was sort of proof that you don't have to be at that level of musicianship to appreciate it. Like, because people, a lot of times, especially in the pop and rock world that I worked in, people would be like, "Ah, that's musicians' music. If you're not a musician, you don't." The regular people don't understand that. And I was like, man, I consider myself a pretty regular person. I mean, I love Alan's music. I thought his music was so hauntingly beautiful and full of emotion, and I didn't
Oh yeah,
understand any of it. Yet
absolutely,
I didn't
absolutely.
feel like I had to. I just listened to it.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting you say that. I mean, when I listen to the Planet X stuff you did, or the Mark Varney. I mean, that's their level, Brett. So,
Oh well,
you
I
know,
guess look, I know what I know, and
yeah, yeah,
I know
yeah, yeah. I
I know
know.
just enough about jazz and harmony to either get me out of trouble or into it. I think that's sort of the the way I describe it to people. I think I stole from all the jazz musicians. I stole their phrasing. I love the way they phrased. And so there's a lot of that in my playing. And I think people might hear that and they go, "Oh, let's play All the Things You Are or Stella by Starlight." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I have no repertoire. I just don't know any standards at all."
Yeah, yeah.
So
Interesting.
but look, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Oh, come on. You,
there's eminently more people who are eminently qualified to play that music than me. I think the thing I always thought about it was, well, even if I got started 10 years ago, for 10 years, I'd be a terrible jazz musician, and then maybe I'd get a handle on it. And by then, everyone else has moved on 10 years, so I don't need another one. It's like I'll
no, but I
just
mean, you're
continue on
you.
my path.
You're you. You're like, you know, when I listen to your sounds and solos and like the Quid Pro Quo record, which is like goes back like what 33 years. I mean,
Yeah, something like that.
that's
Yeah.
some killing stuff there. So it's like,
It was good fun doing that stuff. We had a lot of laughs doing that, TJ and I. It was great.
yeah, I wanted to ask you about those connections. Like, when did you move first to LA? When did that happen?
That was, I think it was 1990 was when I committed and really moved there.
Okay.
89, I first went there in 89 because I was working with John Farnham,
Yeah.
who's a huge star here in Australia. And John was the person who actually asked me to join his band all the way back in like 1985 and allowed me to become a musician and a professional musician. And it was just the most amazing experience. And he was taking time off. We'd done a huge tour with the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, and I think John
Wow,
was
man.
sort of preparing to do another album, but he needed a rest because it had been kind of crazy for about 3 years straight. And I was worried about what I was going to do because I just didn't have have another gig. And the offer came up to come to America to audition for the band Nelson. So I went over there and I'd seen Matthew and Gunnar on TV here in Australia. They'd been out to Australia and they just loved it and they were really keen on getting an Australian in the band. So my name came up because their manager Jeff Shoecraft was an Australian guy, still is, and and so I went over and Jeffrey picked me up at the airport and dumped me at the Oakwood Apartments in LA and gave me a cassette and said the guys will pick you up later tonight, but in the meantime here's the demos. And I just started listening to them and went, yeah, that's a number one hit. Yeah, that song's a number one hit. It was just hit after hit. I went, these are incredible tunes. I love those songs on the Nelson record. They were
Yeah,
because I love pop music. I mean, I love rock and pop as
sure.
much as I love challenging fusion or anything else. And when I listened to these, I went, these are incredible songs. And they were such great musicians and songwriters and singers. Like they were the real deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
So I thought I've got to see this through. If they're kind enough to have me, I've got to try and see this through. And it was an amazing experience. You know, we toured for a year. Like
Wow,
I'd never
that's
done
nuts.
such a thing. Like, yeah, toured America for a year, then finished that with a tour of Japan. And then the next year we did try to do another album, but the grunge scene was really starting to take hold. And they were kind of trying to do a concept record and they were taking a lot longer than they probably should have, which I'm sure they probably realize now. But anyway, you know, by the time they were ready to present something to the record company, I think musical tastes had shifted.
Yeah, yeah.
And also by then I'd started doing the stuff with TJ. We'd done Quid Pro Quo, and I was just I just had such a great time doing that. I'd never, that's the closest they've ever been to, but TJ and I were like a band, you know what I mean? We were
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a,
How did you meet
only
TJ? When did that
he
happen?
was, TJ was, he was working at Cherokee Studios in Los Angeles, which is where we did the Nelson record. And he was just working there as, he wasn't even, he started off working there just cleaning ashtrays and doing security or whatever at the desk. And then he eventually became a tape technician or, you know, he'd
Yeah.
service machines and things like that. But he walked into the studio late one night to empty the ashtrays, and they were doing a rough mix of one of the songs, and it was a song called "Everywhere I Go," and I had this kind of long outro solo, and it was a good 32 bar segment of guitar playing,
Yeah.
and TJ heard there was the first 16 bars I figured were it was the really good stuff, and I figured they'll be faded out by the time they get to the last 16 bars. And then, of course, I went into the studio the next day, and Mark Tanner, the producer, told me he was going to edit out the first 16 bars and use the
Oh,
last 16 bars. And I went, oh, man. Luckily, TJ heard the first 16 bars, and he actually thought I was doing two-hand playing like he does. And he said, I've got to get to meet this guy. I think he's doing my thing. And so he introduced himself the next day, and there's just something about him straight away. I just went, he's for real. Like, I don't know.
mm.
I just knew that he was legit. And he said, you should come up to the apartment. We'll have a jam one day. And I said, well, let's do it. So I went up to his apartment and I went, yep, he's for real. All right. Like, the
So
minute
it
I
was just
saw,
two guitars. You guys on guitars or jamming?
what's that?
You were just both guys on guitars, just jamming some stuff and
Just jamming. Yeah. He
oh
just put
wow,
on a drum machine and we just make up a chord progression and improvise.
beautiful.
And I was just watching him do his thing, just going, well, that's someone finally figured that out. So, but yeah, it was mind blowing. The
Mm.
other funny thing was, I think it was about 1988, maybe. And I was touring with John Farnham, and I sort of guitar players would gravitate towards me, and they'd come back to my hotel room, and we'd jam and just talk. And one day I'm hanging out with this guy, and we were talking about Alan Holdsworth, and I said how much I love Jeff Berlin on the Bruford
Oh
record.
man,
So
sure.
how
Ooh,
much I loved his bass playing. And the next day he met me at the airport, and he said, "You should listen to this. You'll enjoy it." And he just gave me a cassette with Jeff Berlin written on it in pencil. And so I put it on the Walkman when I got on the plane, and it was the album with Scott Henderson on it. It
oh,
was
the
Champion.
champion. Yeah, yeah. Ooh, man.
The first song, Mother Lode, right? And I'm listening to it going, oh, I like this guy's guitar sound. I thought,
Amazing.
sort of sounds like Alan's sound, but different. And then, of course, by the time the solo came on, I was like, you know, who is this? And I didn't know. I think for about a year and a half, that album and that guitar player completely influenced everything I did, and I had no idea who it was.
Oh wow, that's
And
beautiful, man.
there's no internet, right? You know, you can't find out. So anyway, in the midst of jamming with TJ, he said, "Hey, I teach up at GIT, and you want to come up one day?" And I said, "Oh, I'd love to." He said, "Yeah, I'll show you around the school." And he said, "We should go up Tuesday." He said, "Scott Henderson's teaching. You'll like him." I was like, "Okay," you know. So we go
That's
up there
amazing.
and walk into the room, and Scott sort of shoots us this look like, "Oh, great, two more long hairs walking in." You know, we come in with the hair down to here, and we sit down, and he's playing a standard with some guy, and he's just on a clean tone, and he starts to solo, and within about a bar, I've gone, oh my God, you're the guy. You're the
That's
guy on that
amazing, man.
tape. And laughed afterwards, I said to TJ, Scott, he's on Jeff Berlin's record. And he said, oh yeah. He said, you know, and so I went to Tower Records looking for Scott Henderson albums, not knowing I should be looking for Tribal Tech records.
That's
So,
amazing, man.
and that was down that rabbit hole I went. So yeah, it was, what a thing. So,
Did you ever tell Scott about this?
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, Scott's a good
I mean,
friend now. Like we've
okay,
just become friends over the years,
that's amazing
and
story.
which is just fantastic. Like it's wonderful to sort of say that you can become friends with Frank Gambale and Scott Henderson and people like Rick and all these amazing musicians. And but yeah, I told Scott that story. Thought it was really funny. But
It's amazing, yeah. That's
um,
quite a compliment to him as well, right? Hearing like one
oh
bar of
boy,
him
you know,
playing like Stella by Stella, it's like,
hey,
oh shit.
I always thought, you know, like I don't really consider myself much of a musician, but boy, I can pick him. You know what I mean? Like when I heard Scott, I went, this guy is the guy to watch. And I think Scott is,
Oh,
at least Scott and Frank and Alan are basically the big three for modern fusion, like rock fusion, you know, like
absolutely.
all the young rock players to this day, myself included, who's an old rock player now, but even the young guys now, they are the missing links back there, you know, the
Yeah.
guys with absolute jazz harmony playing with rock attitude and blues
Blues.
attitude.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's you know, there's so many others too. You could go to Robin Ford and
Oh, sure.
Lowry and yeah, it's amazing. People talk about rock fusion like it's a new thing, but no, it's been around for a long time.
Oh, Jeff Beck started it like in what early 70s,
Right, right,
basically, even earlier actually.
exactly.
So yeah.
Well, that was my brother-in-law Wayne when I was staying at their place, and that was a long time ago. I think I was only about 13 years old, and I was just rifling through his records, and I pulled this album out, and I went, "Well, it's got a guy with a guitar on it." And it was wired,
Well,
and the
oh, I
first
love
thing
that
the
record, man.
first thing I heard was Lead Boots, and I was just my hair was blown off my head, and then the weird thing was when I went fishing back through his record collection, I found a cassette of Blow by Blow, and I'd already heard all those songs on the radio, but I didn't know who it was. They'd even play them on the TV in ad breaks and things like that. They'd play She's a Woman and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and so that I was just a Jeff Beck disciple ever since then.
Yeah. Oh, I love
Still
Cousin
am.
Bandit is Lovers, that solo, man.
Oh
Like,
God.
oh, that's just like whoo, going up. Just
Goodbye Pork Pie Hat was the one that
awesome.
totally blew
The Mingus one, yeah.
that just blew my mind. I thought that was one of the most amazing things I'd ever heard. And see, once again, no idea why I like it. I'm just sitting there listening to these sounds and going, "Oh, this is amazing." Half my friends probably thought I was crazy. Like they wouldn't even be able to. I've always felt like I could hear things, but I struggled to find them. It's my one regret in life. I never got to study composition and harmony and all that sort of stuff. I feel like I could have contributed some really good music, but
But how did you
it's too late.
compose then and write music? Like on that TJ record, how did those tunes happen actually, for instance?
Oh, we just kind of sat there and threw things around and came up with
Oh,
stuff. And
okay.
yeah, it was kind of hilarious. Like we just sort of sit there and put on a. I think I just bought this weird little drum machine that Yamaha had made called the QY10, I think it was, and that's where we had that song Quid Pro Quo. That was the
Yeah.
first program we pressed, and that came on, and we went, "Oh, we'll write a song for this." And then I think a musical oasis awaits us was like a hip hop groove we found on there, and we just kept using this little drum machine and just put on a groove and write a song to it.
Amazing.
So never had so much fun in my life. It was so incredibly creative and just great fun. We had a great time doing that.
How did then the Gary Willis connection happen? I mean, obviously you were in
Well,
LA and kind of the same fusions.
well, that was through TJ. Like TJ
Okay.
was he was helping Tribal Tech. Which album would it have been? Might have been Illicit. Might have been
Illicit, yeah, or
the
Face First,
working on
maybe. Yeah.
Illicit, and I think they were doing it down at Cherokee, and he was helping them with it, like as a second engineer. And I think it was Illicit, and he just became friends with Scott and Willis. Well, everybody actually, with Kinsey and Kirk, everyone, and he just asked Willis if would play on the album, and Willis
Mm,
said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it for you." So, and we couldn't believe it. I mean, just to
yeah,
have
that's
Gary Willis on our album, and he sat there, and TJ said he went to his house with just these raw demos that we had, which were basically, I don't even know if we had drum machine on them. They were like click track and scratch guitar. And Willis just found out what key they were in and sat there and just wrote the chords down as they went
oh
past.
man.
And
Ooh,
blown away. And then I actually sat in the studio because TJ had to work and I had to sit in there and press record for Willis, and he just ran them down. It was just unbelievable. Like
wow.
there's a song on there called Subway.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
I
Yeah,
remember Willis was playing, and I
the
said,
first track actually. I think it's the first
"Yeah,
track. Yeah,
yeah," and I said, "There's a solo here, Willis," and he said, "Okay." That solo is what he played in that moment, and he just kept going and sort of looked at me and went, and I said, "Yeah, you know, that's a keeper." And there's another song called Mirage, and it's got this beautiful sort of odd meter thing that TJ came up with, and Willis sat there and just improvised this intro melody
What a
over
monster.
those
Yeah,
chords, and I just listened to it. You know, he's just that those guys are so good. They can just it's instantaneous composition. I mean,
yeah.
just just incredible. It was just awe-inspiring and thoroughly depressing to be around musicians that good because you just realize like no matter how long I live, it'll never be long enough to get anywhere near as good as these guys. My God.
Oh, come on. No, 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 no,
No.
no.
And
No,
you gotta keep it real. It's keeping it real. So,
I don't know. I mean, if now that we're talking, I would never like when I listen to those records, I'm just like blown away by the musicality of all of you guys. It's just,
I was just always amazed at how those guys could do it in the moment. You know,
mm,
I was okay at improvising, but not to that level. I mean, wow. You know, it's sort of see. I remember the first time TJ and I went to see Tribal Tech play, and I think it was one of the first gigs Kirk ever did with them.
oh,
Was at a club called At My Place down in Santa Monica, and I was absolutely shell shocked. I don't think I actually played the guitar for 2 weeks after that because after watching Scott and that band, I went, I don't think I'm really qualified to do this. And yeah, it was kind of just unbelievably amazing, you know. And I got to see so many players like that in LA. It was wow, what an experience. Yeah, it could really make you reevaluate yourself.
oh, for me it was New York, the same. Like when I went when I was
Right,
19, I
yeah.
thought I was pretty good, and I'll go to a jam session, like to a club in Harlem. I was like, oh no, I
Yeah,
didn't go
yeah.
out. I just practiced for 2 weeks in that place where I was living. Then
Oh,
I,
man,
I
yeah, I
was
know.
just like, shit, man, I suck. You know, I'm like the
It's
worst.
amazing, yeah. It's just you don't realize how good really is until it's right in front of you, and you go,
Yeah,
"I got
yeah,
to get busy."
yeah. How did Uncle Mo's Space Ranch then happen? I mean, that's like basically half of Tribal Tech with, you know, you and TJ and and Dennis, which again, like the
Well,
Dennis connection, like,
I mean, you know, like TJ's obviously a world-class recording engineer. Like he's
yeah,
one of the best in the world, I think. And amongst other things, he's an amazing singer, songwriter, guitar player,
everything, yeah.
recording engineer. It's like he can probably juggle. He's just never shown me. So, um, but uh, but yeah, he'd engineered a lot of the Willis's albums and a lot of
Oh yeah,
stuff for
influences.
Mike Varney, a lot of the tone center stuff. Like TJ had engineered a lot of that stuff for him and mixed it. And Mike approached him about doing a project, and he said, would you be interested in doing something? And I don't know whether Mike presented the possibility of doing it with Dennis and Willis and Kinsey, but I think TJ asked me if I'd do it with him, and I was kind of on the fence about it, not because of the project, but because I had to go back to come back to Australia to tour with
Okay.
John Farnham again, and it was stressing me out. And in the end, he said, "Come on, man, you got to tell me one way or the other." And I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." So we just had the most basic framework for these demos, and to the point where it was almost embarrassing. And I really I don't think Willis or Chambers thought this record was ever going to come out. But we just knew that if we took what they did and took it away and worked on it, we'd build it into something. And Scott Kinsey, I got to say, what a genius, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely as well. Yeah.
Scott was just unbelievable. What he did to those tunes, I mean, wow. I mean, I had to drop a tape over at his place or pick one up or something, and he was like, "Hey, I just got a new keyboard," and he had a new Nord sitting there, and he started to demo it, and I was just standing there, and I said, "Scott, just record an hour of that, and I'll just give you $15." You know, it's like you've just done an album. So I mean, Scott Henderson used to talk about that, how he said Kinsey was capable of that, just instantaneous composition, and which of course they all were, but he really loved the way Kinsey did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way Willis and Dennis and Scott played on that, it was just man, it was just another level. I mean,
Mm,
it was amazing. And then the work TJ put into it too, like an engineer and also as a player, like he had this idea where he said we're going to go and rent a whole bunch of guitars, and we rented a whole bunch of acoustic guitars. And while we were in the studio at Musicians Institute, we recorded a lot of these acoustic parts and used these really funky old Martins and things,
amazing.
and and then we did all the overdubs for the other stuff back at his rehearsal studio in Van Nuys, and not Van Nuys in North Hollywood, and John Ziegler. I don't know if you know John. He was a
No.
good friend of Scott's at the time. Really lovely guy and a great guitar player.
Oh,
And John just had tons of pedals. And he said, "Hey, I'll give you guys a bunch of pedals." and he came over with all this amazing stuff. Like he actually gave us a real Echoplex. I'd never even seen an
Oh wow,
Echoplex,
man.
and slow gears and all these really obscure, like real fuzz faces from the
That's
60s,
where
and
all the sounds come
all,
from.
all,
Okay.
all that stuff's all over Uncle Mo's. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
We had an absolute blast doing that. And of course, it was the first time we'd ever got, it was the 001 version of Pro Tools that came out. So it was the cheap version of Pro Tools, but we were capable of using Pro Tools to manipulate things and reverse things. And so, and then there's one song in there. I think TJ called it his email address. I think it's called tjhelmrich@earthlink.net. I think that's the name of the song.
Yep.
And he had this idea because he'd been working with a friend of ours named Jamel, and he's a DJ, and we used a guy on an album we did years before this to come in and scratch some stuff, and he was just amazing. And so TJ said, I'm going to do a solo, and then I'm going to take it up to Grundmann's mastering and make them burn an LP of it, and then I'm going to come back and scratch it
That's
and
amazing.
chop it together in Pro Tools, and that's what that solo is on that song. It's
That's
him
insane.
scratching it like a DJ and then chopping it back into something that makes sense using
Wow.
digital editing. So yeah, it was great fun. The gloves were off for that record, man. We just
Yeah.
did whatever popped into our heads.
Did you play gigs with some sort of a version of that band or
No, no,
no,
that
right?
was it was
Yeah.
just it was just a project. Yeah, I
Yeah.
no, and we didn't even play live with Willis and Chambers in the studio. We just let them do their thing to
And then you could cut it
create
and everything.
semblances of backing tracks of tracks that we had,
Interesting. Wow.
and then we just took all that away and built it into something. I
Because
I
it
think
sounds
Dennis.
so organic, man. It sounds really organic. I just listened to it today actually
I
before.
think it's a big part of that is just those three musicians. Like I mean, not to discount what TJ and I brought to the table, but even Tribal Tech started to do stuff like that
Oh
at
yeah,
a
on
later
Rocket,
date.
Rocket.
I
Yeah,
think I heard Scott talking about it, how he said they'd kind of improvise and then go away and chop things
yeah.
up and do. Because I remember he said that Zawinul used to do it too. I've got one of Zawinul's one of the later Weather Report albums here, and you can hear where there'd just be a hard edit to another song. And he said Joe didn't care about crossfades or anything. He didn't care, but every time there's an edit, whatever happens after that was played in real time. It's
Mm,
like it's because he said, yeah, Joe was capable of just, you want a song? There you go, song, and it's
amazing, right?
and it's just done. It's a complete composition. I mean, musicianship at a level I can't even fathom.
Yeah, I mean, he started with Cannonball and all those guys in the '60s, and it's amazing. Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. How you mentioned Mark Varney before, and uh, how did you meet up with him? Because there's this important record for me as well. I did this interview with Frank Gambale, and those two records, the that Varney did in the '90s, the early '90s. I think it's 1990. Uh,
Yeah, like night. I think Truth in Shredding came out in
yeah, and
19.
Centrifugal Funk. Yeah,
Centrifugal Funk was 92 or something, I
yeah.
think. Maybe.
Those are two of the most underrated guitar records, I believe. Like people should know
Oh
more.
man.
Like the one with Alan. I mean, Frank was just like, man, insane. But on this record you did, it's like Frank and one of the greatest ever, Sean Lane. Like, what's the story behind that one, and how was Sean like? Also, I'm such a
Well,
huge
the
Sean Lane fan, by the way.
the amazing thing was I can't remember the timeline whether it was 1990 when Mark was putting together the rhythm section for Centrifugal Funk because it was Jimmy Earl, Steve Faglione was there. I went
Yeah,
to the rehearsal studio and watched them rehearse. Joey Heredia playing drums, Mike O'Neill on guitar. Like, man, what a player is. Like, oh my God, his
yeah.
rhythm playing, and he was blowing solos when they were doing the rehearsals, and I was just sitting there going, "Why isn't this guy on the album? What am I doing here?" And I can't remember who the keyboard player was. I feel terrible. I can't remember his
Shit,
name,
yeah, I'm
but
also now. Ah, fuck.
obviously someone ridiculous. And then Mark sort of grabbed me and said, "Hey, come and have a listen to this." And he took me out to his car and he played me the mastered version on cassette of Truth in Shredding. And I remember I just looked at him and said, "Mark, what have you done?" I said, "You've got the two most unbelievably groundbreaking guitar players on the planet on the same album together. This is crazy." And And yeah, he knew what he had, all right. And
Yeah,
Frank did a masterful job of producing that. Like it's and
true.
one of my favorite songs on there, if not the favorite, is "New Boots," which is Frank's original tune. I love that song.
Yeah,
And Jimmy Earl produced Centrifugal Funk, so
centrifugal.
he did
Yeah.
a fantastic job of that. And because I originally I used to buy Guitar Player magazine when I was very young, and I kept buying it into the 80s. And Mark's brother Mike started doing the Spotlight column where they'd feature three
Okay.
players every month and every issue. And I was reading it and was really interested. And I just looked at it and thought, well, I've never seen any Australians in here. And I thought, I wonder if he put an Australian in. So I, had my girlfriend take a photo of me in front of a wall and sent him a demo tape with some solos on it. And he put me in the magazine. I was the first
Oh
Australian ever
wow,
featured.
man. Okay, that's
I
amazing.
think I was. I don't know. And so Mark Varney found me through that. It might have even been an English friend of mine, Maurizio, who found me through that, who sent my tape to Mark. I think that's
Wow,
how it went.
amazing.
Um, so I have to, yeah, thanks to Maurizio for doing that. And Mark and I were talking. I think this was even before I'd even gone to America. We were talking about me doing an album, and I was thinking in terms of Australian budgets, and I thought, this you can't get this done for under $30,000. It just can't happen. And Mark said, I've got about five, and like I had to track the whole thing in a take, and I thought it'd be a bit rough. And then I turned him on to TJ. Gave him TJ's information, and he started talking to TJ about the same thing. And I remember TJ and I sitting, having a couple of beers, sitting up in the Hollywood Hills, looking out at the city, talking about how are we going to do an album for $5,000, and this is never going to happen. And then we just sort of hit upon this idea, like, why don't we do it together, and then we'll have $10,000. And we presented the idea to Mark, and he said, "Yeah, that sounds fair enough." So we did quid pro quo as a joint effort, and he pulled the budget. And through downtime at Cherokee, which TJ could get because he was working there, we managed to make it happen. So
Wow,
that
that's
was
amazing.
how that happened. But that was Mark was already talking to me about doing an album for him, and that's when he said, "Look, I'm putting this project together with Sean Lane and Frank Ambali. Do you want to do it?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, well for sure." And the funny thing was, I'd come back to LA, and I guess it must have been early 1990. And I was staying with Bobby Rock, the drummer from the Nelson band. I was
Yeah.
crashing on his couch, and Bobby was old friends with Sean Lane. And he said, "Hey, check this out." And he puts this video in that had just been sent to him by Sean. And it's Sean playing. You can find it on YouTube. It's at the Bombay Bicycle Club, I think. And it's
I'll have to find it.
him and a drummer playing the backing tracks that Sean had obviously recorded. They're doing like Mike Stern tunes and some of his early instrumental stuff. And I'm just sitting there going, "Oh my God, what am I even watching right now? Who is this person?" He said, "Yeah, he said Sean was his friend of mine. He used to be in Black Oak, Arkansas, the whole
Yeah.
story." And then when Mark said that to me, I said yes. And then I thought, I'm going to get killed. I'm going to get pulverized here. And so luckily I got to do all my solos before then Frank came in after I was finished. And I thought, oh, thank God for that. It was great. I got to meet Frank and he was just wonderful. And Sean did his stuff in Memphis. He didn't like to fly back then. So
Did you ever meet Sean then live
I
also?
did, yeah.
Oh,
Bobby Rock and Carl Carter, fantastic bass player who I met through Bobby. And I used to go out and do these drum clinic tours when Bobby had a deal with Sona Drums. And we'd just go all over America in a van. It was fantastic. I got to see so much of America.
mm,
We did it like punk rockers, like just get in a van, pull a U-Haul and sleep in it and wear the same clothes for weeks. It was hilarious. Like a great experience. And on one of these tours, we went through Memphis and called in at Sean's grandmother's place where he was staying. And he played us Powers of Ten in its entirety before it was even released. I mean, uh, and I got to meet him and have a chat with him, and he was just the most amazing person. Like
mm,
so humble and understated. It was really easy to forget the magnitude of the musician you were actually talking to. And I remember we were listening to the album, and I said I could tell they were sampled drums. I knew it wasn't a real drum kit, but it sounded like a real drummer. And I said, "How
mm-hmm.
do you do the drums?" And I said, "You program them." And he said, "No, no, no, I just played them in." And I was trying to think like what on a, like the pads on the drum machine or something like. And I said, and then you quantize it, and he said, no, no, I didn't quantize it. They just played them in,
Oh
and
wow.
we just kind of left it at that. And then I think the following year I was at the NAMM show and I saw a guy, a keyboard player, demonstrating drum samples for a sample library, and he was playing a groove on a keyboard. And I went, oh my God, that's what he meant. He sat there at his keyboard and played all those songs
That's
in
amazing.
real time. And I mean, his friend Barry was there, and he said that he was there the day Sean took delivery of the little Mac computer and Cubase. And I think it was about, I don't know, it was like 4 in the afternoon. And Barry said, well, I'll see you tomorrow, Sean. He said, yeah, see you tomorrow. And he said, by the time he'd come back the next day, Sean had stayed up all night and had learned how to use Cubase and had written and recorded Grey Pianos Flying in its
Wow.
entirety.
Oh man. Okay.
And I went, okay, so, and he hadn't touched a guitar in nearly 2 years, not 2 years, like 2 weeks, I don't think. He was going through a terrible time personally at that time, and he wasn't really playing. And that night he came and jammed with me and Bobby and Carl, and
Whew.
man, it was like he did nothing to play that guitar. It was just frightening. It was fright. We had a song called Pedal to the Metal, which had a very long, quite involved melody. And I showed it to Sean before the gig, and the clinic went for 2 hours, you know. So, I mean, I said, you don't have to remember this if you don't want, Sean. I mean, you know, you can just blow over the solo. And Sean said, no, no, it's okay. I'll remember it. And Barry said, trust me, he'll remember it. And Bobby Rock's got a cassette of it. He's got a
Oh
recording of
man.
it, of the jam. And you can hear Sean just kind of feeling his way through the first part of the melody. And by the time we play it again, he's on it. He's playing it better than I did, and I wrote it. So, I mean, and the solo is
Amazing.
just like, Jesus, it's just face melt sent like a flamethrower, you know? It's just unbelievable.
That's
So,
amazing, man.
yeah,
Yeah, I love this
beautiful,
guy so much,
beautiful.
man. Such a
Yeah.
player. Really.
Amazing and amazing musician. To consider he was as good a piano player as he was a
Yeah.
guitar player,
Yeah.
and probably close to being as good a drummer as well. He could play a real
I didn't
kick.
know that. I didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the album he did after Powers of Ten, the Tritone Fascination. That's
Yeah.
him playing. So
Wow.
yeah, that's him playing drums on it. So
Didn't know. Wow. Yeah, I mean, he's
um,
just the trio with Jeff Sipe and Jonas. I mean, when I first heard that trio, I was like, wow,
yeah, well, that was
man,
I got one of those albums. I think it was Temporal Analogues of
yeah,
Paradise,
that's one of the best albums,
and I
like
remember
guitar
listening
wise.
to it, and I was going, oh wow, they've got a singer. Wow, geez, they've done an amazing job of learning all those melodies. And then it's just all of a sudden I figured it out and I went, no, that's Sean singing what he's playing. Like, it
Exactly. Yeah.
took me a minute because, of course, I couldn't see anything. But yeah, eventually I figured it out. Sean was singing what he was playing. So yeah, you remember when the cassette of Danny Gatton started doing the rounds and they called it the Humbler because everyone thought they were pretty good until they heard that tape and went, oh. And it's like, yeah, I've met so many humblers in my lifetime. It's like I'm kind of beaten down. I'm a broken man. So, uh,
No, no, yeah, incredible. Those, I mean, amazing that you got to work with all these players. I mean, it's really
isn't it?
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah, it's
fantastic.
crazy.
Yeah, but you being like talking about heavy music, I wanted to ask you also, not to take too much of your time, Brad, but uh,
Oh no, you're
what's your story with Virgil? I mean, he's like another Australian guy, and he's probably one of the craziest, one of my favorite players, by the way, ever, and composers and drummers. And how did you connect with him? And I talked with Rick about him as well. And you know, on The Verge and other records, how did you learn to play that music, first of all? And your connection with Virgil. I mean, that's like some of the heaviest stuff out there. And
yeah, yeah.
your
That's
connection with
some.
Virgil, how did that story with him begin?
Well, Virgil's obviously a legend here in Australia. I mean, he's been playing those drums since he was about three, I think,
Probably.
and by the time he was a teenager, I think he was almost playing professionally. He was in a band called Taste back in the '70s, and they were quite a well-known pop band here in Australia. And I don't know what he got involved in. Then I know he did some amazing albums with another singer named Peter Couples, and I saw that live performance on TV, and of course he was just as mind blowing as he ever was, and and then through the 80s, Virgil was playing in a band called Loose Change, which was an amazing fusion band uh, here, quite years ahead of their time. They were
Oh, I
just
have to find it.
incredible.
I don't know that. Oh,
Yeah, Loose Change. It was uh, Mark Dominey was on guitar, fantastic guitar player. Virgil, obviously, Joe Kendamo on keyboards, and Steve Hadley on bass, I believe. And
find it. Okay.
great. You can find it. You might be able to find it on YouTube. But yeah,
Cool.
Loose
Super.
Change,
Write it
amazing.
down.
And then Virgil he formed a band with a friend of mine named Phil Buckle, and they were called The State. And I'd known Phil for many years through just getting my gear fixed in Melbourne. And I stumbled into a guitar shop one day and saw this amazing guitar player, and it was Phil Buckle, and we ended up becoming friends, and um and he was very kind to me and sort of gave me advice and all that sort of stuff. And Phil is just a monster musician, but he's also an incredible songwriter. And eventually, I did meet Virgil very briefly when he was in the band The State, but later on, towards I think it was 1990, he formed. They changed the name of the band to Southern Sons,
Mm.
and uh, and they had an incredible guitar player who I just did a gig with last week. Jack Jones was the name he went by back then, but his real name is Erwin Thomas, but he also goes by the name Jack Jones. So if anyone's confused as to who I'm talking about, Erwin Thomas and Jack Jones are the same thing. And I'll just refer to him as Jack for the time being. But I think he was about 18 when they formed this band, and I met Jack before that. Jesus, man, you got to hear this guy sing and play the guitar, man. It's like just beyond belief, and he's better than he ever was. Like, I mean, we
Amazing.
just did a gig with him and Southern Sons last week, and oh my God, just beyond belief. So, but yeah, Virgil was in that band with Phil and Jack, and they were huge. They were absolutely huge here in Australia.
Interesting.
They should have been
Interesting.
huge all over the world. And then eventually, in I think it was like 1995, when TJ started doing the recording department at Musicians Institute. That's when they built the studios, and he was the head of the department. And there was only a few students there, so we'd go in there some nights and do recording projects, and we'd let the students engineer us to get some
Mm.
experience. And one day we're just kind of walking down the hall, and we hear this drumming, and I just went, "Oh, I know who that is." And we stuck our head in there, and there's Virgil. And we got Virgil. We did an album called Under the Lash of Gravity, and I've got some of the tunes on my YouTube channel. And we were doing these really weird loops with Digital Performer, I think it was called. No, a Sound Designer. That's what it was
Mm.
called. Yes, it was a early sort of two-track version of like Pro Tools that DigiDesign had released, and we would make the computer garble up things that we'd feed into it, like recordings we did, and then we chop them up and make rhythms out of
Mm.
them,
Wow. Amazing.
and they turned into songs. And we realized Virgil was about the only human on planet Earth capable of playing to this stuff, because there was no click tracks or anything. And
Wow. Oh
and
man.
yeah, there was one song called an instrumental tune called Galactic Waterhole, which is just fantastic. That's a great tune, and it's on my YouTube channel if anyone cares. And
Yeah.
and then that's just how we got to know Virgil, and just the connection stayed there. And of course, years later, when him and Derek hooked up, I think TJ was supposed to play on the first Derek's first album, which he called
Yeah.
Planet X.
Well, next. Yeah.
And for some reason, TJ couldn't do it, and then Derek asked me if I'd do it, and Virgil asked me as well, and I was like, how can I say no? I was petrified, but I thought I've got to go for this, and so yeah, I did my best, and I love that record. I
Oh
still
man.
listen to that record to this day,
That's
and I think the songs are so good.
that's
Like,
alien hip hop and those tunes, right? That's the one.
no,
That
this is the first album Derek did called Planet X. It's
Planet
the
X. Yeah. Yeah. Shit. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the
Okay.
actual
I'm mixing it.
album with Atlantis and all that
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember. Yep.
And they did ask me to join the band, and I was committed to a local band in LA called Jenna Music at that time, and I said I can't. I'm with this band here. We've invested so much in it. I got to see this through. And deep down, I knew that I didn't think I was the right player for the band, and I also didn't think I'd be able to really write the songs they'd need for
Mm.
that kind.
Interesting.
I'm
Yeah.
too pop. And then, of course, they got Tony McAlpine, so I think I did the right thing by getting out of their way. The right thing happened. They got Tony, so you know, it was I did the right thing by getting out of the way of the
Interesting.
Planet X project. So, but I've just stayed friends with Verge all these years, and then when the Quantum album came up,
Yeah.
that was another strange situation because I don't know why Tony wasn't available to do it. I heard all these rumors that Alan Holdsworth was going to do it, then Greg Howe was going to do it, and it started off where Virgil said, "Would you just play on a couple of tracks?" I think I thought that actually everyone was going to play on it. I thought Tony and Greg and Alan and we're all going to play on this, and he just wanted me to play on a couple of things, and I said I'd love to. So Alien Hip Hop once again, and something else, and excuse me, and then it was can you play on another couple of songs? And
That's
yeah, sure.
okay.
Can you play on another couple of songs? And in the end, I'm playing on everything except for, well, I'm actually on every song doing heavy rhythms, but Alan, of course, does the
Alan
heavy
did, yeah.
lifting
Yep.
on Desert Girl and
There's
Thinking
girl, yeah.
Stone.
That's whew.
And apparently, he played on a lot more tracks than that, and he got frustrated one night and just erased it all. And
Man.
yeah, and I think he regretted it too. He apologized to Virgil about it, but he was working on ADAX, so they were gone. You know, it was just he was so hard on himself. It's just.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard. I
And
mean,
in 2008, I think, Virgil was invited by Sandeep Chowdhury, a wonderful musician and human being from India, to go over there and play. And Virgil rang me up and said, "Would you like to come over with me and we'll play Quantum, the whole album?" So we did it to track. We had Derek's parts and the bass parts. It was either Rufus Philpott or Jimmy Johnson on bass on the computer. And so I played live with Virgil. And so Virgil had to resend me the stems of the songs so I could learn them because I didn't keep any of the tracks,
sure.
obviously. I had to give them all back to him and Derek. And to my absolute delight, when he sent me the stems on the guitar track for Desert Girl and Thinking Stones are Alan's solos in isolation. And
Ooh.
I still listen to them to this day and just go,
Yeah, that's
that is not human. You can't. They're so clean. Like if you listen to any of my solos isolated, like there's strings bumping and squeaking and all, like as the old gag goes, it sounds like someone's building a shed back there.
oh.
You know, background. Alan's are like it's like a keyboard solo.
That's
They are
amazing.
pristine. He was just not human. I mean, man,
Very clean, yeah.
exquisite to listen to. Just amazing. So.
Yeah, but you as well.
Uh,
How did you learn all that heavy stuff with Planet X? I mean, and Virgil's music. Like, did you just write it
very
down, or like just by heart? That
No, I just learned it by ear and
wow,
just took my
man,
time and you know like Virgil and Derek would guide me through it too. They if I was getting something wrong, they'd point me in the right direction and you know I'd try and slow it down and practice it slowly and build it up
yeah,
and boy, it was hard. I mean, I've seen
it
clips of
was tough.
Tony playing that stuff and he looks like he's playing a blues gig. He's just killing it. So me, it was a sweat fest. I was just yeah, it was hard.
Interesting. Yeah, but you nailed it. I mean, I love that Quantum album is really good,
There's some
compositionally, guitar wise.
great
It's like,
tunes, some great tunes on
really
there.
good.
There
Yeah,
really are some great songs on there.
really good
And Alien
album.
Hip Hop just sort of keeps growing, you know. It's an ever evolving tune, that thing.
Yeah, yeah. I hope you will do some more stuff like that, man. Still in the upcoming years, I would love to hear another album like that by you. Like just this kind of. I hate the term fusion because it's like kind of dated, but like you know
Well,
what
I
I
mean,
mean, like this this
I've
type,
been
man.
working on some tunes, and I think I'll try and get into those uh, in the new year. I don't know about doing another album per se because
That's a different story. Yeah,
you know, you can't you don't print CDs anymore. It's
no,
like you don't print CDs anymore, so the concept of a running order and cover design and all that, it's
it's
a
gone.
bygone. I might just work on tracks, you know, and just do a track and release it and sort of just put it up so people can listen to it. But like my music, yeah, there's a fusion influence in it, but you wouldn't call it fusion, classic fusion. It's
No,
like
yeah,
it's more rock and pop than that. And I think that's where I was always coming from. Like I knew that thanks to Larry Carlton, like Larry was the guy that Jeff Beck sort of pushed me in that direction, and then Larry was the guy that kind of solidified it. You know, he's the guy
Steve
that said,
Lukather, all these guys, yeah.
well, and Luke, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's
Yeah, when you
those.
hear what Luke was doing with that amazing sound and you could just tell that he had so much depth behind what he was
Yes.
playing. Like even the first thing I heard was Hold the Line. And apart from the fact I knew the solo was criminally undermixed, it was like even back then when I didn't know anything about mixing, I was like, the guitar's not loud enough. But you can hear him doing things in there where
Yes,
he's
absolutely.
throwing in like melodic minor lines and stuff, and just amazing. And it was funny. I actually got to meet Steve. Now, when was it? I think it was earlier this year when we went down to see Toto in Melbourne,
Oh,
and I
wow.
got to meet first time in my life, and it was like just a bucket list moment, man, to meet Steve. I tried to tell him like because people always talked about my how I do the chromatic thing, you know, chromaticism, and I said all that came from White Sister, the outro solo to White Sister, where he just lets loose and just
Yeah.
does something. And it was the first time I'd anyone play like four semitones in a row, and I went, okay, I'm having this. And I told him that, and he said, I was just a crazy kid back then. I don't know what I was doing, you know. And I was like, yeah, it sounds like it. So just what an amazing musician. I mean,
Yeah,
man,
absolutely.
and so yeah, Luke, Larry, they were the guys that really I wanted that, you know, I wanted that kind of knowledge of harmony and chord changes, but with rock, you know, and pop
Yeah.
and um and so that's what I was really drawn to. I'm afraid I love listening to jazz guitarists, but I don't think I love it enough to where I'd sell all my distortion pedals and
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
buy a jazz box. You know what I mean? And
No, no, no.
you've got to love it that much to get good at it. You know, it's
Don't do it. Don't sell them.
I'll never be another Bruce Foreman or anything like that. I'm afraid it's
Oh, no,
like
no. You have to stay you, man. That's why we love you and your playing and your sound and everything.
yeah,
It's
I'm stuck with that. So yeah.
yeah. It's like you sound like Alan now almost. Like
Oh
he was
God.
worse. Yeah, what I've heard. So
Oh God. Well, the night I actually got to meet him, uh, we'd gone to obviously at the Baked Potato, and I met Alex
oh, Hatchet.
Alex Hutchins.
Ah,
No,
Hatchets. Yeah.
Alex
Okay.
Hutchins. Yeah, and I didn't know what an amazing musician he was. He just introduced himself and said, "Hey, I'm a fan." You know, we were just chatting away, and I had no idea the what an amazing musician I was talking to. But he was just such a nice guy. We're chatting away, and the gig had finished, and you know, Alex is here, and I'm here, and all of a sudden, Alan's head is in between us, and he looks at me, and he goes, "Sorry." Then he looks at Alex and goes, "Sorry."
Oh my
And he wanders off, and he went to every person in the room and apologized to everybody. It's like that old gag. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Alan's like,
man.
I'd like to apologize to you all. And so Alex and I kept chatting away, and we noticed Alan was lugging his gear out. And I went, this is not acceptable. So I just went over and grabbed a quad box or a 412 and picked it up and took it out to his van for him. So,
That's
but we
amazing.
managed to get a photo, and I got an autograph, and I don't know why I never just reached out and just said, "Hey, you want to go get a beer and have a chat?" You know, it's
Mm,
like
yeah.
just to say hi. Like, I mean, Alan, we probably would have got along great just having a chat about being expats living in America and
Yeah.
all the rest of it. I certainly wouldn't have bothered him with anything about music because what would be the point? But you know,
Amazing,
how
man.
do you tune it? It's like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
what sort of
Yeah.
picks do you use? I don't know. It's like other than
Oh,
that, like, what are
yeah,
you doing?
yeah.
So yeah, it's a shame I never got to know him, but I was really lucky. I got to see him a lot. Like I got to see him play a lot, and that was uh, that was something else. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Insane. Yeah. Brett, do you have any plans still of coming to Europe, by the way, or with whatever touring
Oh,
project, or not really, right?
I'd love to, but nah, there's nothing really in the future.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
It's like I can't justify the expense of flying myself there,
yeah, yeah.
and I'm afraid an economy trip from Australia to Europe would probably kill me now. It's like, oh boy, it's like to sit
I
in
know.
those like this
20
for
hours.
20 hours and then at the other end have to get out and attempt to blow people's minds. I don't think it's going to happen. Like, which is a shame too, because I got so many friends all throughout Europe, wonderful friends and wonderful memories. And I was lucky I got to do it at all, I guess.
With John, right? Yeah.
Hey, never say never. It's like,
Yeah,
never say never. Something might happen. You never know.
absolutely. Beautiful. Man, I'll leave you a nice, what, you have an evening there, right? I'll leave you a nice
Yeah,
evening
yeah.
now, so,
About 8 o'clock in
yeah.
the evening. Still pretty much daylight
Oh,
outside. So
wow. Yeah, we're here in a fog, 10 in the morning,
yeah,
so,
we're heading towards summer. So yeah,
okay.
it's crazy hot
Beautiful.
here in
Uh,
France. So.
Beautiful. Man, but thanks so much for sharing some of these thoughts. I really appreciate it.
Oh man, thanks for
So
having me,
nice
Samo.
to hear
Really
you talk.
appreciate it.
And if you're ever in Europe, just drop me a line. We have a guest room here. You're kindly invited if
I will take you up on that for sure. Thank
definitely
you.
somehow. So, and I'll let you know when this is out. I'll send you a link and everything. So, and
Beautiful.
cool. Thanks
Awesome.
so much,
Thanks,
Brett.
man.
Stay strong and come on. We need more tracks by you. So,
All right, I'll get busy.
yeah. Thanks so
Yeah.
much, Brett. Thank you.
Bye.
Dr. Jazz.